What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. I wanted to do another franchise-related video here today that is very much on par with a topic that I've discussed before, and it's more related to pitchers. So in previous iterations of the game, we've talked about adding secondary positions to players within the game, especially some of the randomly generated prospects that you draft and things like that. They'll come in without a secondary position, even though, especially in the minors, some of these players might go from one position to another, playing different things, being utilized in whatever way they can to help them grow and help the team grow, and things like that. I mean, most players have a secondary position, and some of them don't, but most of them do. But in regards to that, I want to talk about something similar with pitchers. And no, it's not secondary positions, but it is a edit of players that I recommend you guys pay attention to and that you utilize as you go throughout your franchises. So one of the most predominant issues that you may notice as you get deeper into a franchise within MLB The Show is that you'll start to have a lot of pitchers that have limited pitch types, and that's what this video is all about today. As pitchers progress within franchise mode, I highly recommend that you guys utilize extra pitch types for them and add extra pitch types for them. And I'll show you how to do that, but I want to show you guys some examples of why. One of the things that might happen within your franchise mode is that from time to time, you might move a starting pitcher to relief pitcher or vice versa. You might have a relief pitcher that is gaining stamina for whatever reason, or that you want to utilize as a starting pitcher. Maybe they are having success as a long reliever or something of that nature. You're certainly going to want to have that availability to switch players around, and that does happen. I very often switch players back and forth between those positions, and that happens in real life. Sometimes guys move to the bullpen, sometimes from the bullpen move to the starting rotation, and things like that, and they develop in that way. So you may do that in your franchise as well, but beyond even doing that, a lot of times generic prospects will come in with fewer pitches than allowed. So what I want to show you first are my top starting pitchers now, and if you look at the top right-hand corner, you'll see their pitch repertoire. They're going to have 5 pitches. Most of the time, whenever my starting pitchers develop to a certain point, especially if they have a really good season or if they've developed really well as an overall and things of that nature, I'm going to add an extra pitch to them. I'm going to make sure that they have 4 pitches at a minimum in the starting position category, and some of them I work up to 5 pitches. As you can see with Mitch Keller, he has 5 pitch types. I added a cutter to his pitching repertoire. I've done similar things for other pitchers within this franchise, but when you go down to your prospects, a lot of them are going to have 4 pitches, and some of them are only going to have 3 pitches, and that can be detrimental to their development, detrimental to how well they can perform as a player, and detrimental to your performance with that player, utilizing that player. So I highly recommend, like I said, adding those pitch types. One great example here is Chris Bullington, who I added as a starting pitching prospect, but whenever I actually click in on him, he only has 3 pitch types, and that's a 4-seam fastball, a sinker, and a 2-seam fastball. And to be honest with you, some of those pitches aren't even all that useful in combination with each other. It's really hard to strike somebody out when you're throwing 3 versions of a fastball. You don't really have a side-to-side, a horizontal breaking pitch. You don't really have the type of break downward that you would get with a changeup or a curveball or something of that nature. So you do want to certainly pay attention to pitch types at the least, and you want to try to maybe give them something that they could utilize to strike out batters or get more outs and things like that. So if I were to give Chris Bullington another pitcher at some point, I would probably work on a breaking pitch, whether that be a curveball or a slider or something similar to those, because he only has 3 types of a fastball essentially. So that's going to happen to you guys, and really what you want to know is that the goal would be to have 5 good pitches for a starting pitcher. For a relief pitcher, a lot of the pitchers within the game are still even going to only have 3 pitch types. I mean, they're only coming in for an inning, so they don't need as many pitch types in order to get outs, but you will still see a lot of prospects here, much like Chris Bullington, that don't have a good balance between their pitches. I mean, you look at Diego Castillo, he has a slider, a sinker, and a 4-seam fastball. That's a little bit more useful. That's going to be more effective in getting strikeouts than just 3 types of a fastball. And even whenever we go all the way throughout the game and look at some of the top relief pitchers that are within the game, you're going to still be looking at players that have minimal amount of pitches. So, your relief pitchers, for example, Garrett Crochet right here is up to an 85 potential. He only has 3 pitch types, but his pitch types are also pretty well balanced. He's got a 4-seam, a slider, a changeup, and that's going to be extremely useful to strike batters out. So you don't have to give your relief pitchers a ton of pitches, your closing pitchers a ton of pitches. That's not necessarily going to happen that often. There are some of those guys that do honestly have a good repertoire of pitches. I mean, some of these guys that are really good are going to have more. Like you take a look at Josh Hader, who's one of the better relievers, closers in the game, has a 4-seam, a 2-seam, a slider, and a circle change. So ultimately, the goal here for you guys when you go into your franchise is to understand that your relief pitchers, closing pitchers, ideally would maybe have 4 pitch types for you at a minimum of 3 if they don't already. They should all come in with 3 pitch types, but crazy things happen. I don't know if that's possible for them to even have 2, but your starting pitchers, you're going to want to have 4 or 5 pitches on. So again, just something that you certainly want to be aware of and certainly want to be active in changing or helping yourself with as you go throughout your franchise modes. But let's go ahead and get into actually how to change a pitch type. So for example, or how to add a pitch type, we're going to go to Chris Bullington, who is a relief pitcher. So you're going to click on that player on your roster and you're going to click Edit Player. Whenever we go into that player, then we're going to go down to attributes and you're going to want to go to pitch types, and then you're also going to want to go to pitching afterwards, because otherwise you might do one thing and set yourself up for failure with the other. So pitch types, if I was going to add a pitch type to Chris Bullington here, maybe I'm going to add a slider, for example. You can do that by simply scrolling over and picking which one you want to have in each slot, and in fact you can change what's already within the slots that they have. So that's relatively easy and straightforward, but the most crucial step that I need you guys to utilize is the actual pitching attributes that go with that pitch, because those are all going to come in as 0. As you can see, because I accidentally went over to 2-seam fastball, this is now at 0 for all velocity, control, and break, and his slider are all at 0 for velocity, control, and break. So this is where things get a little bit more complicated. You're going to have to kind of compare to what they have already in order to match that control, velocity, and break and put that at a certain point. So I know he throws a 93-mile-per-hour fastball, so if I was going to manipulate his 2-seam fastball to be relatively similar, I'm going to take that up to maybe around 90 miles per hour, or rather around the same level of velocity that he has, which is 73. So I would take it up to around that territory, maybe 70, and then the same thing. This guy is not going to be a very good control pitcher. He does have really good control in his 4-seam, so I might mimic that with his 2-seam as well. I'll give him pretty solid control on that and try to kind of mimic that as well. And let's take a look at his break. He has really good break on his sinker, and he has no break on his 4-seam. Well, a 2-seam fastball is kind of a breaking pitch, so we'll give him some break. We're not going to go crazy on it, maybe give him 55. And then on the slider, we're going to do very similar things. We're going to give him a certain amount of velocity on it. We'll go ahead to control, just randomly scroll up here, and then we'll go on the break. This is going to be more of a breaking pitch, so we'll send this one up closer to 70, and that is going to set us up the way that we need to if we are going to add a pitch or change a pitch in a pitcher's repertoire within MLB The Show. So let me go ahead and save this change real quick, and we'll go out to the player's rating. And you might wonder, if I added that pitch and I changed that pitch, does his overall change? In fact, no. A pitcher's overall is not actually affected at all by their velocity, control, or break numbers, while those do affect the way that their pitches move within the game, and it does affect their performance within the game and your ability to perform well or perform poorly with that player. That person's break, control, and velocity will have no effect on their rating. So I do want to demonstrate that again for you guys very quickly. Chris Bullington is a 56 overall. You may remember that for earlier, but let me go back into these pitch types, and I'm going to take everything up to 99, and I'll show you that his overall does not in fact actually go up at all. So let's take everything all the way up and make sure that we have it where we want it to be, and then we'll hop out and take a look real quick at his overall. In fact, we probably don't need to do every single one of these pitches. We just need to increase everything a bit, we'll just forget about the four-seam fastball and we'll go from there. I think we've increased enough. You can now see that he has 99 break, 99 velocity, and 93 control, but his overall is still only a 56 overall. So a cheeky little way there that you can influence a player's ability and a player's performance within the game that is not actually going to influence their overall or anything like that. So, you know, I don't quite know why that is established the way that it is. It is quite interesting that that is not something that affects a player's rating. It is primarily determined based on their hit per 9, K per 9, base on ball per 9, home run per 9, and stamina numbers, especially for starting pitcher. But nonetheless, I do hope that you guys found this information useful in this video. And if you did, leave a like down below, comment as well, and subscribe. Let me know down in the comment section, do you guys add pitches for your pitchers as they develop within your franchise, as they develop within your organization? Let me know if you don't or you do, or any comments that you have on those types of things. Let me know all that down in the comment section below. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have a good one.